Good morning, guys. It is April 19th, 2020. I hope you had a good and safe weekend. Just some reminders here as we start fourth quarter. Keep up your hard work. You guys have been doing a nice job. The goal is to just keep up every day. It's going to be a lot less overwhelming if you just keep up with your work daily, and many of you have done a good job of that. So keep that up. I'm here if you need any help. I'm here on the videos. I'm here on the screencast. I'm on Google Chat. Just make sure once you turn a assignment in, I will be giving you prompt feedback for the most part within that day. And if you need extra help, check the comments. I'll send it back to you. And then once you send it back and correct the work and show me and yourself that you understand the goal for the day, then I will be giving you will have earned 10 out of 10 points. So keep that up. So today's focus question is the same one we had Friday. I saw some things I'm going to point out. There were some common mistakes, so we're going to take one more day of this. So remember, our focus question was this. In order to use zero product property, an equation must be in factored form. How do I turn an expanded expression into an equivalent factored expression? So a couple things here. Remember when we talk about factoring, it's the opposite of expanding. So when we expand, we distribute. When we're factoring, we're dividing out a common factor from each of our terms. So when we do this, notice this expression here has three parts or three terms to the expression. So what we need to figure out is what is the greatest common factor? And this particular problem is the one was on our problem set on Friday, and it was definitely a challenge for many people. So when you look at this, the first move is think about the coefficients. Now you notice in this problem, here I'm going to highlight it here. Notice there's no coefficient in front of any of these terms. So that's like saying there's, we can multiply that by 1. It's like having a coefficient of 1. So when we, the greatest common factor there would be 1. So if we divided out 1, it wouldn't change anything. So we're going to go on to our variables. Now remember, when you're finding the greatest common factor in your variables, you're finding what each term has in common. So if you look at this, the lowest number of p's in any one of these terms is 2 right here. So let me change the color on this so we can highlight this. This is 2. So we have 3 p's, copies of p here, and 7 here. So each term has at least 2 p's. So that's going to be one of our common factors. And even before I do that, I should have set up my expansion boxes. That's really going to help me. So since this is 3 terms, I'm going to have my expansion boxes, p to the third, q to the fourth, and then p to the second, q to the fifth, and then negative p to the seventh, q. Okay, so going back up to the green part, up at the top, the green exponents, I know I have at least 2 copies of p in each of the terms. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide out p to the second power. Now I look at that other part of the term, the q. So there's 4 q's in the first one. Let me change the color on this. Let's go blue. We got 4 q's in the first one, 5 q's in the second term, and in this case, because there's no exponent, it's 1 term. So there's one, I'm sorry, not a term. There's the exponent of 1 on the q variable. So 1 is the largest number that they have in common. So I am going to be able to divide out q. And I could put q to the first power. I will. It's easier to see it that way. Or else I could just use it as q, or I could write it as q. So let's think about this. So we divided out p squared q to the first power. So if I wanted to, if I think of this, to go from p squared q to the first power to p to the third q to the fourth, I would have to multiply that by p to the first power, q to the third power. The second one is p squared has to go to p squared, so I just multiply that by 1. And then q to the first power to get to q to the fifth power, it would be q to the fourth power. And then p to the second power to p to the fifth power, and since it's negative, it's going to be negative p to the fifth power. And q to the first power to q to the first power is just 1. So here we go. And I'll rewrite it now. Now I'm not going to put the first power above the variable. So p squared q times p q to the third power plus q to the fourth power minus p to the fifth power. All right, so once again, so I take my original expression, which is in expanded form, and I factor out p squared q. Then I'm going to have p squared q times the quantity of pq to the third power plus q to the fourth power minus p to the fifth power. Remember, this expression is in factored form, and it is equivalent to this expression here. But remember, in factored form, if we're solving an equation, we can use zero product property. So a lot of times we're going to want to transform an expression from expanded form to factored form. So let's go to another one. So take a look at this one. 14a squared b minus 7ab squared plus 21ab. Think about what your first move is. I'm going to pause it, and in your notebook, I want you to think about and write out what you would do first. I'll give you a couple seconds. You could just pause the video right here and then come back. That's right. Hopefully, guys, you set up your expansion boxes. Let me erase that. Apologize on that one. So notice we have 3 terms. We're going to have our expansion boxes are going to have, it's going to be 3 by 1. So I'll rewrite this here. 14a squared b minus 7ab squared plus 21ab. So what's our next move? Think about it. Figure it out. That's right. We're going to divide out our greatest common factor. So if you look at the coefficients here, we have 14, 7, and 21. What's the greatest common factor? The largest number that will divide in evenly to those 3 numbers is 7. Okay, so now I go to my variable parts. And I'm looking at my variables. I'll start with the a's. So a to the second power. Here's a to the first power, and then a to the first power. So I know I at least have 1 copy of a common in each of these. So this is a. Actually, let me move this over so we could fit the a in. There's not a lot of space here. A, and then let's go to the b part of the variable. We have 1b here, 2 b's here, 1b here. So we at least have 1b in each of the terms. So my greatest common factor is 7ab. So I could divide out 7ab from each of these terms. So now I'm just going to think, I'm going to do this backwards. So I need to go from 7ab, I'm going to multiply it by something to get 14a squared b. And that term would be 7. To go from 7 to 14, I need to multiply by 2. To go from a to a squared, I need to multiply by a. So, and to go to b, I'm multiplying by 1. So if I look at this, 2a times 7ab would be 14a squared b. Now to go from 7ab to negative 7ab squared, to go from 7 to negative 7 is negative 1. 7 times negative 1 is negative 7. A to A, we're good with our A's, and to go from B to B squared, you need to multiply by a B. And just take a look at it. Let's see if this works. 7 times negative 7ab times negative 1b would be negative 7ab squared. So it's helpful to kind of look at that again and make sure you factored correctly. And to go from 7ab, what do I need to multiply that by to get 21ab? That would be 3. 3 times 7 is 21. The A and B are already accounted for. So here we go. 7ab times the quantity of 2a. So if I have, and that second term is minus 1b, it's the same as saying minus b and then plus 3. So remember, let's go orange here. This expression and this expression are equivalent. One is in expanded form. So remember, expanded form. And this one is in factored form. And factored form is very helpful when we're thinking about solving equations with zero product property, which we'll be doing in the next lesson. All right, so this is what I want you to do, guys. In Google Chat, right when this lesson's done, before you even start to do your assignment, I want you to go to Google Chat, and I want you to factor this expression, 8x to the third minus 18x squared. So I want you to rewrite it in factored form by factoring out the greatest common factor. All right, guys, if you have any questions, if you need any assistance, I remember from 9 to 11, I'll be in Google Chat. You can email me, send me your assignments back today, and I will send them back to you with feedback. Have an awesome day, guys, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.